Hello and welcome back. I'm Jennifer from Joy of Stationery, and I've got an exciting video today because I am finally doing my Techo Kaigi as I prepare my 2024 lineup and reflect on how it's been this year to use different planners and journals and Techos in 2023. Pardon the noise, that is my lovely kitty who will probably, well, who might be making a little bit of a visit. We'll see. As you can see here, these are kind of the main players for my 2024 lineup. But I wanted first to speak to how I got here in terms of what really worked for me in 2022 and perhaps what didn't work quite so well. So 2023 was really a year full of new things for me. So we had just moved to a new country, a new city, and because I wasn't sure how things would work out in terms of our new life, it really became a kind of experimentation year for me in terms of different notebooks. And this was really helpful in that I was able to try a number of different notebooks that I had long been wondering about, that I would have wanted to try at some point, and really got to know the pros and cons of each of them for me. And I did quite an extensive mid-year Techo Kaigi on this channel towards the beginning of when I first established this channel just this summer. So you'll probably be able to see a number of details there. All of those notebooks I am still working through here and there and finding a purpose for, because I don't need to throw them away if they're not finished yet. But I think that the Techos that really rose to the top for me this year were my tried and true Hobonichi Techos, and of course the Traveler's Notebook setup as well. I think I had posted on Instagram at some point some time ago, joking a little bit about how I go from Hobonichi to Traveler's Notebook to Hobonichi to Traveler's Notebook, back and forth, because they're both systems that I really, really love. And I'm hoping that in 2024, this next year will be the year that I can finally bring them together in a cohesive system that really works for me and where I can really enjoy the benefits of both of those systems together. 2023 was also the big year of the Hobonichi weeks for me. It was the year that I tried out a number of different kinds of layouts and a number of different purposes, and I was really able to kind of fine-tune what it was about the week's layout that really worked for me. And there are really wonderfully flexible multiple ways that it did work for me, and because of that I decided that I really wanted this year, or this next year, I'm sorry, to have a Hobonichi weeks be somewhat at the center of my planning, particularly week to week and kind of on a daily basis. Before I get into the nitty-gritty of all of these, what I wanted to kind of showcase were the sizes that I think I'll really be working with in 2024, and that's the standard Traveler's Notebook size along with the Hobonichi weeks, and so that's part of this setup. The Passport Traveler's Notebook size, which is one of my favorite sizes. I do love little things. And of course the A6 size, which I also really, really love. And so you can see here that we've got the Traveler's Company and Hobonichi well represented. Perhaps the one size that was the focal point for me this year in 2023 was really the A6 size. And I found that it's a size that really worked for me. I was mostly using the Hobonichi Avec A6, which means that it's the original Hobonichi Techo, but divided up into two. So two different books for the first half of the year and the second half of the year. And I would say that the first half of the year really constituted a period of that kind of experimentation, trying to find what worked for me, especially as I navigated a new job, a new country, a new city, a new life. And then the second half of the year is really where I began to fine-tune my system. And I think a lot of it actually began with One Book July, which I think is one of the first videos that I have on my channel, actually. So it was my One Book July setup, which I decided to use a Hobonichi A6 Avec for. I felt like it was the perfect time to break open the second half of the year, the new book for the second half of the year, and see if I could make that into a really wonderfully, almost all-encompassing One Book July system. And so because of that, what I'll show you here, this is the absolutely beautiful Thousand Sunny cover, which is the one-piece collaboration with Hobonichi. It was a gift from my partner, and I have talked about this in a number of videos, a number of previous videos, but I absolutely love the idea behind the design of the cover as a kind of one-piece logbook in a way that shows the signs of its use and how it's been loved over the year and over the years. And so I just wanted to kind of show you what I have in here at the moment. So of course I had to continue with my use of the Hobonichi A6 Avec, and what I really loved about this particular planner is because it was half a year, I almost felt like it was a little bit more low stakes in a way. I could experiment with different kinds of layouts, experiment with the kinds of tasks and reminders or gratitude logging that I wanted to try out in these pages. And it still all resulted in a wonderful little book full of memories, even if I'm using different kinds of layouts on different pages or on different days. As you can see, I've not actually covered up the notebook itself. I know that this is a bit of a contested color in the stationery community, but I thought that I would just leave it as it is for right now. Just a little bit of, very minimal decoration with some PET tape, lovely little flowers, with the knowledge that at any point, once I get a sense of, if and how I would love to decorate this a little bit more or cover it up, I have the freedom to do so. I will be putting it into the front part of this cover. That's what I actually prefer to do rather than the back. And so because of that, I wanted to feature this absolutely gorgeous postcard in the front. And so when I open this up, this beautiful image of, I think they might be kind of Japanese maple leaves and the gold of the moon greets me right away. This is a postcard by Midori, and I think it's a kind of limited seasonal edition postcard. So I actually had gotten this in the fall, but had been keeping it for a special occasion. And I thought that beginning the new year with this beautiful, beautiful image would be a great use of that. I also have tucked in here the new pencil board in the A6 size from the 2024 release from Hobonichi. This is the Aurora Duty image by the illustrator Hiroko Kubota, and I think it's just so adorable, and I am really happy to have this in a pencil board form that I can use throughout the year with this beautiful A6 setup. I have a few little stickers here just for now. This one is just kind of tucked in with the lovely, I think it's the Going Merry perhaps, or kind of a version of the Merry ship from One Piece. But this is just a cute little cat that I have here, and some beautiful other stickers from Milk Tea Danny, whose work I really love. In the back here is where I usually keep a field notes, and my current field notes is this beautiful one, the Heartland edition, and I've been using it for December. I will probably be switching out to a new one in January because I'm almost done with this, and it will yet again be a lovely record of the month of December. And I went over this a little bit actually in my last video, where I talked a little bit about my end of year favorites a festive 5 of them, and the field notes was one of them, and being able to kind of archive a slice of each of the months in a field notes notebook and have them all together. So this is how I've been loving to keep my A6 Hobonichi Avec, with the field notes on the other side in an A6 setup just like this, in a Hobonichi cover. And this will be my setup as we move into 2024. However, I'm not yet done with the A6 size, because it is a size that I'm familiar with and really love. So I just wanted to show you the other items that I have that I've actually been keeping. They fit so perfectly in the freebie bag from Hobonichi. This is the really cute onigiri bag, but you can see that I have 2 A6 Hans in here, as well as this adorable little planner that I'll be showing you, but it all fits so perfectly in here, and so I've just been keeping it all together in this lovely free bag from Hobonichi. Just such a perfect fit. So here what I have is this really cute, very slim planner from my dear friend in the adorable cat shark or shark cat character. And I also have 2 Hobonichi horns in the A6 size. One is the absolutely beautiful bow and tie design for the One Piece collaboration, and this one is called Like the Sun, which is for the Thousand Sunny ship that's being featured on it, much like with the Thousand Sunny cover. And the other bow and tie design, which was the Cats and Me design, which I thought was so adorable. These I'm really excited about, and it's the first time that I had gotten bow and tie series. I thought that the designs for the bow and tie series were all so beautiful this year. So I'm so glad to have one in each of the different designs. But this one I am planning to have as my main archive of the year. I'm really looking forward to making this beautiful book really the kind of logbook of the year. I'm planning for it to be a kind of a daily journal, but also a record of all the kind of appointments and things, all the kind of calendar type things that I have throughout the year. And once again, I really have in mind that this will be an archive of everything. So even if I'm not necessarily doing all the nitty-gritty of the planning in here, I want it to be a kind of lasting record. Hence the idea of kind of a daily journaling in here, as well as still keeping track of the calendar and the schedule. I have begun to set it up and to decorate it. I have this quote that really resonated with me from a book that I just finished reading called The Stardust Thief by Chelsea Abdullah, and I really quite liked the book, and this quote was something that really spoke to me. The quote says, "One cannot know the outcome of a journey if one is not brave enough to take it." And I just loved that so much, especially kind of in light of entering into a new year, a new chapter of life. And because of that, I wanted it to be kind of at the forefront of this archive here, and for this quote to kind of stay with me as, again, we embark on the journey of 2024. And I've also included this beautiful image from a PAT tape of, I think it's meant to be kind of a window seat from a train view of some sort. And I just thought that was really in fitting with this idea of being brave enough to kind of go on a journey. On this side, I have another beautiful sticker from Milk Tea Danny. I have really been kind of in the mood for stars. That's been kind of an ongoing theme. I love the little stars that Hobonichi has used a sparkling thread to put on this cover. And I've got a number of little stars here, and so this was a beautiful kind of star-themed sticker, free ticket, meteor shower, and a starry night. And just under that, I actually have some of these really cool translucent sticky notes, and I just got these from Ryman Stationery, which I think is just a kind of common stationery store in the UK. It kind of reminds me a little bit of maybe something like Staples in the United States. But they were selling these translucent sticky notes, and so I thought, oh my gosh, that's terrific. I didn't even know that they had that. So I just have a few here in case that I need that to work on some things in the pages if I do need some sticky notes. This beautiful Cats and Me hone with these adorable cats, I have decided to use for a health journal. I am really needing to focus on my health, and I felt that a great way to kind of show my commitment to my health, to prioritizing my health and looking for as close to full recovery as I can is to dedicate a Techo to it and to really kind of document what my symptoms are in the different categories of health and wellness, and to keep this log so that I can also have this kind of record and documentation with me when I have to go to a doctor's appointment or any other kind of health appointment. I have this log with me here. I did, of course, want to also kind of decorate it a little bit. It's not fully decorated just yet, but I have this really lovely little memo note designed by Eric Smallthings, another beautiful sticker. You can see that it's kind of a similar theme here, kind of admit one ticket. I thought that I would use one for each of the hones, and this one is a lunar eclipse one by Milk Tea Danny. And once again, just having a few of these translucent sticky notes in the front, just so that I have them handy if and when I might need to use them. And then finally, I have this adorable, adorable little planner. It's a monthly planner that features these adorable little kitties. And this will be really a planner for my cat and logging his vet appointments and other kinds of things that we might want to kind of track with his health and just his life in general. And I'm so grateful to be able to kind of have this as a dedicated little record of his life next year. Because these two are somewhat health related, my health and my cat's health, I was actually thinking of combining the two into a system that I can bring around if I have like a doctor's visit or a vet visit. And so I'm using this lovely Camel Traveler's Factory book cover. And I was clued into using this for the Hon last year because Himawari Stationery had noted that the Hon actually fits really well with this A6 book cover by Traveler's Factory. So I have this in the Camel, and I will be setting it up as such. So as you can see, I'm able to sort of coax the Hon in there. And, you know, one can actually put both of the covers here if you just wanted it to be a cover for the Hon itself. But because I wanted to kind of combine it, I decided that I would place this one on the other side. And it fits really well together. And I just love the fact that I can kind of keep these health records together for various kinds of medical appointments, or, you know, as a way to kind of document together how we're doing, how my cat and I are doing. So there you go. So those are my primary A6 Techos moving into 2024, precisely because I know that the A6 size works really well for me, and it's probably the size that I've had the most experience with at this point and the most success with. And so I'm really looking forward to being able to kind of put all of these beautiful A6 Techos to use in 2024. As an addendum to the A6 lineup, I did want to include another A6 planner that is not Hobonichi and that I have been using, and this is the lovely Taken Out planner in the mini size, which is their A6 version. And I have this currently housed in this adorable little gifts cover with some washi tapes from a good friend of mine. And as you can see, I sort of decorated this or added some extra little stickers to this. And what I had been using this for, oh, and I have this at the back as well. What I had been using this for was as initially a kind of hobbies tracker towards the beginning of the year, and I talk a little bit about this in my mid-year Techo Kaigi. I have since gone to using it, I think from the middle of the year till now, as a kind of content planner. And there were things that I really liked about that. I liked the clean layout and being able to kind of map out my schedule of videos, especially early on when I first started this channel. And as I went on, this is why I decided to get another one of these beautiful, beautiful planners. At the same time, especially as we approach the end of the year, I am rethinking whether it is the best kind of format for me in terms of kind of thinking about my content and planning out my content creation. So let me just kind of open this one up for you. So it is just a really, really beautiful planner, and I love the little thank you card that they include there. And I love the fact that they include this kind of year at a glance card and the word freedom. And I think it comes in a different color every year. Last year was the first year that I had gotten this mini Taken Out planner, and it was in yellow. I see that for the next year it's in blue, and it's really, really lovely. And what I like to do with this card is actually keep it in my standard traveler's notebook setup in some way and just kind of have it visible. But here we go. You can see that I already decorated the front here with this beautiful jar of stars by Milk Tea Danny once again. And it just is such a beautiful planner with the gray and the brown. And I feel like the brown almost looks a little bit different to me than last year's. But in any case, this is a beautiful planner that uses a week across two spreads. So rather than having a week across the page, we have kind of an overview of the week, the first 3 days, and then on the next page, we have the last 4 days. So Thursday, Friday, and Saturday and Sunday. The weekend gets its own page here. And there is something that I found really helpful about this in terms of content planning. I am still kind of thinking about it because otherwise I think I would also really love to use this as a kind of photo album. And so the Canon Mini printer that I have, the photo size almost kind of fits each of these columns. It's just a little bit wider, but I can also kind of play with the sizes. But I started to wonder whether this might serve as a really nice photo album, kind of a photo per day, precisely because of this divider that for whatever reason I didn't really notice in last year's one. I checked and I think it is there, although maybe it's a bit fainter. Maybe that's why I didn't realize it. But I loved the idea of perhaps having a photo per day to kind of remember things and then being able to kind of journal about it. So I have in mind perhaps either a content planner or a photo journal, but either way, I am really excited to try this out again as part of my A6 lineup, and having a better idea now, especially because of the ways that I was able to use the Techo note planner from the year before. Oh wow, that's actually quite a difference in terms of the kind of tone of the gray here. This is more of much warmer of a gray. This is a little bit cooler of a gray. Oh, that's really striking. But in any case, it was really fun to try this out and to kind of use it for multiple purposes, to try to find out what it was that would work best for me. And I'm glad that I did. So this has become kind of a very interesting and eclectic archive of things, but I'm still really glad to kind of have it and to kind of use it throughout the year for, again, tracking different kinds of things. And so I'll be keeping this just as a record of the year in that sense. And I'm looking forward now to using this in 2024, especially because I have a much better sense of how it feels to use this kind of layout, the week across 2 spreads. Next, I wanted to move on to my taller Techos, I guess. So we have the standard traveler's notebook here, but this is also my setup for the Hobonichi weeks, and I'll show this in a bit as well. So I have already begun to share a little bit of this. I basically have one of the new Hobonichi weeks inside here. This is the absolutely beautiful bow and tie design in the bow and tie tiny dragons design. And I love the placement here of the little seahorse with a beautiful red coral right by the ear, right kind of front and center. And I love that so much, the placement of this. And it's in the back of this one that I do have a couple of the very cute baby seahorses. So what I've been doing, especially as I mentioned before, I think in my previous video, is slipping it into the back pocket, and this is inspired by Chris from Soft and Spunky Designs. And you can see that it's already started to kind of fluff up a little bit. Of course, it is a little bit, or very much also because I had already I'd actually decorated all of the pages with these lovely little emblems by Eric Small Things. So I have one on every single weekly page, but it's been really lovely to kind of have that. And at the same time, it does obviously bulk it up quite a bit. And so it was getting a little bit awkward for this to kind of fit in the middle of an insert, kind of in the middle of the standard traveler's notebook. But I did want to include it here, as well as have kind of a standard traveler's notebook set up in the front. But on the subject of the weeks has been such a wonderful experiment for me this year. And I am really happy to kind of look back on my mid-year Techo Kaigi, where I was talking a little bit about how I was trying out different weeks and hadn't quite figured out the right setup for me in terms of how to use the weeks. But I persevered, and I am so happy that I did, because it's very quickly become one of my favorite planners ever. I do have a couple of weeks that I will be continuing on from 2023 into 2024, because they are spring start weeks, and those are very specific to certain kinds of work projects. But this one here, I decided to get as an everyday carry, and I'll be doing a separate kind of setup video, kind of explaining a little bit more my 2024 lineup and how that's sort of looking in terms of the planning and journaling. But for now, I just kind of wanted to mention that that's kind of what I have going on here. I've got a few things here just to kind of decorate. But I'm really happy to have started this at the end of November, going into December. And as I mentioned, I think in my previous video on my Festive 5, my kind of end of the year favorites, the consistency I have found for the past few weeks, the past several weeks with this has been so lovely. And I'm really eager to continue this into 2024. And I'm so glad that it starts early so that I've already built the habit of kind of using this in a consistent manner every single week, you know, picking it up every day and using it. And I feel much more kind of strengthened in my ability and commitment to kind of use this in the way that I've set up, precisely because I've been able to kind of practice that consistency and practice that habit. I did want to mention another weeks that I'd gotten, and this is probably the very first weeks that I got, and it's just so beautiful. I haven't even opened it yet. It's one that's very popular among Hobonichi lovers, and it is the absolutely beautiful Hiroko Kubota illustration, Another Night of Falling Star Sparklers, I think is the name of it. I hope that I'm remembering it correctly. So you can see I haven't even opened it because I've admittedly been fully precious with it. I'm afraid of scratching it up, and so I wanted to kind of preserve it for as long as possible until I actually use it. You can see that I haven't yet used it, and this is because while this is a 2024 planner, I love the design so much that I want to make it into a really beautiful book on the inside that I can keep and kind of treasure even beyond 2024. So to that end, I guess I'll finally open it on camera. So a number of others have showcased this absolutely beautiful design. I left a little booklet here. But as you can see, and I'm not sure how much you're able to kind of get a sense of the beautiful kind of sparkling iridescent foil of the little stars here. But we've got this lovely cat almost on a kind of tightrope that's linked to the stars, holding a sparkler upside down so that you see the kind of falling star sparklers. And this is all against a beautiful, a beautiful image of a kind of cityscape by the sea. And you've got little boats here and a cute little fox who's sitting on sort of the other side. I really enjoyed Paulina from Paper Joy PH. Her description of this cover, it was very enthusiastic, and I completely agree that it was just one of the most beautiful designs. It's such a beautiful piece of artwork, and it's precisely for that reason that I have wanted to, you know, make this into a book that isn't just a yearly planner, but a kind of reference that I could use even beyond 2024. Something that I have in mind as a kind of inspiration is what Petra has done with her, I think this exact same weeks, but she began to kind of set it up, and I'm trying to remember if she has set it up as a tarot journal. I know that she does have kind of a beautiful Hobonichi week serving as a tarot journal, but if you look at her setup, and I will try to link her video down below as well, right from the front cover when she opens it, it's just this beautiful splash and explosion of color, and there's something about it that is just so joyful and just so gorgeous that I would love to do something similar with this and really make this a kind of beautiful work of art. And I do have in mind potentially this then being a kind of tarot journal. I think that would be a great way to use it, precisely because it can serve as a kind of reference that isn't just relevant in 2024, but that I can kind of use for the different cards in years to come, and therefore always having this available as a reference. But we'll see. That's kind of the idea that I have for now. In any case, the main point is that it's such a beautiful illustration, such a beautiful design, that I definitely want it to kind of last beyond 2024. I do know that on the Hobonichi website, they list a kind of a warning or piece of advice about the cover on cover on these glossy ones, and kind of the warning that it might end up kind of taking the foil off or something like that. I have seen a number of people using the clear cover on cover, so hopefully it's something that isn't too much of a problem. I wasn't sure though, and so I think for myself, I do have this really lovely fabric cover made by, I think it's Tago book cover on Instagram. I will link them below, but it's this really, beautiful patchwork of blues and browns. You can kind of see that's kind of the that's an ongoing theme. And so because this is a lovely sort of fabric, I thought that I would keep this in here just so that it felt like it might be a lovely kind of protective cover for this week's, and I can kind of rest assured that it won't get scratched up too easily, precisely because I think that the glossy covers from Hobonichi, though they're really nice, can get scratched up quite easily, or that it kind of shows quite easily. And so I'll be keeping it in this just to kind of keep it as safe as possible. So these are kind of the primary weeks that I'm dealing with here. And following on that, I did want to talk a little bit about the actual traveler's notebook kind of setup here. I have been experimenting throughout the year also with the standard traveler's notebook size for various kinds of research notes or other kinds of reflections. And I love the size so much, but I always sort of felt throughout the year that in some ways the Hobonichi weeks for me was sort of competing with the standard traveler's notebook size. So now I have it combined so that they don't have to compete, but rather they can kind of work together. And I'm really, really happy about that. And I'm very hopeful of keeping it like this in 2024. And what I decided to do is use this absolutely beautiful Yosaka stationery insert that they had just come out with this year. And I also kind of included, this is one of the 2024 Travelers Town stamps for their 2024 theme that I thought fit really perfectly here actually, and it kind of matches the gold foil of everything. And I have decided to make this into an insert where I celebrate where I live and how I live and when I live. So kind of the seasons in the region that I'm living in now, thanks to this new book that I got. So this is the Almanac, a seasonal guide to 2024. And this is one that is specific to the UK, the United Kingdom. And apparently from when I looked this up, the author creates this every year, but uses a different illustrator to kind of illustrate. And I just thought this year's looked so beautiful. I've never actually gotten one of these before, but I was just immediately struck by the beautiful, colorful image in the beginning. And then I spoke a little bit about this in my last video, but looking at the way that this almanac has these chapters for each of the months, as well as different information kind of relevant to that specific month. And each month also starts off with a number of the local or kind of national holidays, and some of them I hadn't known about, some of them I only just learned about this year after kind of living here. And so I wanted this to be an insert that could serve as a kind of record as I work through this guide and as I kind of reflect on some of this information and think about the information and kind of reflect and journal about things. And so it's a little bit busy on the front page because I was just having some fun, but this is a little bit of another title page that I have here, and I'll be kind of filling it a little bit more. So this will be kind of my own version of the almanac, using this as a guide and then kind of using it to kind of decorate and become a kind of memory keeper based on the seasonal guide to 2024. So I have this so far, and I wrote out the holidays so far, and I'll be kind of putting January over here. But I just thought that it would be just a really fun way to combine the wonderful theme of Traveler's Company for 2024, which is Traveler's Town, as I get to kind of explore my city, my new city, much more in depth, and also use the seasonal guide to really learn a lot more about the region, about the weather patterns and the gardening patterns, and to make this a kind of beautiful record of my seasonal experience, if you will, of 2024. So I just felt like, I believe that the theme of this Yoseka notebook might also have been something like home. And so I just thought this would just be a really nice way of honoring that and kind of documenting my experience of building a home here. Before I leave off of this, I just wanted to mention I do have one more field notes in here, and in my last video I spoke about how wonderful the field notes has been for me in 2023, so much so that it has kind of expanded, and that this is one of the kinds of notebooks that really worked for me this year. And because of that, I will be continuing with kind of a monthly field notes that I kind of showed just a moment ago too with the A6 setup. But in addition to that, I also wanted to create a field notes that would serve as what I'm calling my stellation journal. So you can see this is volume 1, with high hopes that this will stick. But it was such a size that worked so well for me that I felt like this could also serve some other needs. So this is the beautiful snowflake image 1. I think it's technically called Snowy Evening, I think is the name of this design that Field Notes came out with. And I've decided to call it Stellation Journals because I was really intrigued by the notion of a stellation. The root of the word comes from the idea of the star, or the concept of the star, with kind of stellating, a constellation, for example. And apparently, in terms of a technical definition, a stellation is kind of using a polygon and extending, I think, its points so that it kind of grows. And there was something about that that I really resonated with, especially because I have been feeling the theme of stars and things, but also the way that I wanted a space, a really kind of flexible space that I can depend on and kind of go back to for my creativity. And so for the different ideas that I have, and this could be just creative in terms of ideas for even my research or other kinds of ideas related to content or what have you, just anything kind of inspirational and creative that comes to mind. And so I wanted this to serve as something like that. the field notes I'm currently using per month serve as a kind of monthly record. There are some Bujo entries in there, or some long form journaling entries, or other kinds of brainstorming, but I really wanted to have a space where I can be creative. If I have an idea, I can kind of brainstorm about it in here, and therefore collect and keep all my kind of creative ideas together, or my sources of inspiration. And so to that end, I already kind of started using it a little bit, but I also decided to begin this particular one with some of the prompts for 2024 from Susanna Conway's Unravel Your Year. And so this is something that I've mentioned before, but Susanna Conway is a creative and content creator who comes out with a free workbook for unraveling your year. So kind of unraveling the year that you've just had and looking ahead to the year ahead. And I thought this might be a really lovely space for that kind of inspiration. I kind of decorated it here just to kind of mark where I'm beginning some of the prompts, and started stamping some of the prompts here, and I'll be kind of writing below them. So what I am looking forward to is one of the prompts from that workbook, what I feel apprehensive about, areas of my life that are ready for change and growth, what parts of myself I will nurture, and so on. So I'll be continuing these as just a way to record my hopes and dreams in a way, alongside creative ideas. And I really want this stellation journal, and hopefully what will become a series of stellation journals, to serve as books of inspiration for myself. So I'm also really glad that it fits so perfectly, not just with the A6, but here I plan to keep it in my standard traveler's notebook setup in the clear zippered insert. And I just feel like it just fits so well here alongside these other lovely things that I'd like to have on hand from a day-to-day basis. A couple more items here as I think about this Techo Kaigi. This was a beautiful, beautiful Paperblanks journal that I spoke about in my mid-year Techo Kaigi, and it was something that I had started as a journal in my new country and my new city, and this had a beautiful name to it. Glowing Rose is the name of the design. I was keeping it in a leather cover, but you can see it's kind of made a little bit of an imprint there. But I also kind of decorated it with these beautiful foil stickers from, I believe, Sibylline is the name of the artist. And this is, again, the Glowing Rose decoration. And I had started this out at the beginning of the year, or really rather the end of last year and the beginning of this year, but it didn't quite stick in terms of a journal. And I think it's because the paper itself and kind of the lined nature of it wasn't necessarily the most conducive to a kind of daily journaling habit, for me at least. However, I revisited this just recently, now that we've approached the end of the year, and completely coincidentally, the day that I opened this up recently was exactly the day that I had made my first entry in it. So I took that as a serendipitous sign and did a little bit more journaling in it. And I think what was so wonderful about that is that because I had just written a few entries from the end of last year and the beginning of this year, this is where I had first written the kinds of intentions I had for the new year, maybe the kind of word of the year or mantra of the year that I had thought about. And because those were the last entries, that was so fresh here. And I was able to write a few more entries as I looked back on that to reflect on how that went, and then looking ahead to 2024 and how I'm imagining or reimagining my kind of goals or intentions or kind of word of the year type ideas there. So what I decided for this, because that just worked out so beautifully and serendipitously, is that I'd like for this to be a record of those first ideas and those first hopes for each new year at the end of the previous year. And so because of that, I'll be writing in this as the year comes to an end and as we approach 2024, and then I'll be putting it aside and picking it back up next December in 2024. And I think and hope that that will just be a really lovely record again of, you know, what are the hopes for the new year? What were my hopes from last year, and how have things sort of changed? And because it's just that snapshot, that transition between the end of one year and the beginning of the next, it's not buried in a journal that has all the other days of the year in it. I have other journals that are going to be used for that purpose as a kind of daily journal or everyday journal. But because there aren't so many entries to kind of sift through, it's just focused on this beautiful liminal transitional period where we reflect on those very kinds of hopes. I'm hoping that this can be a record of those special moments, and I can look back and hopefully, you know, across the span of 5-10 years, see how those hopes for each year had taken shape, perhaps had they've changed. And I think that would hopefully do justice to a journal that is this beautiful, just to kind of be that, you know, a journal of liminal hopes, I guess. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention the Passport Traveler's Notebook. The Passport Traveler's Notebook, as I think I've mentioned before, is one of my favorite sizes ever. And I actually had a setup that was working super well for me this year. And this was maybe around May and June. And I absolutely loved it. I had a kind of bujo or bullet journal set up in a Passport Traveler's Notebook. And the reason that things changed a little bit was only because of my experiment with One Book July, where I knew that I needed the A6 Hobonichi if I were going to do a One Book July or one book system. And needing a space to have those kinds of extra notes, or potentially continuing a kind of bujo bullet journal entry system. And that's where I ended up switching from the Passport Traveler's Notebook size to the field note size, just because I can kind of insert one field notes with my Hobonichi A6 Avec in one kind of book setup for my One Book July. And again, I think that was one of the first videos that I made for my channel. But of course, I want to be able to come back to the Passport Traveler's Notebook size because it is one of my most favorite sizes, and especially because my partner gifted me this beautiful new Camel Traveler's Notebook in the Passport size. I've added here the Nanala design beautiful leather tag that I'd gotten before. I'm forgetting at the moment what this is called, but I'll try to link it below. And I think it looks so beautiful. And what I really wanted to do is to kind of make this into a journal that I can bring with me on the daily in any of the bags that I have. So really becoming a kind of cafe journal that I can record things in or journal in when we have any kind of outing. I already have this sort of set up with the Traveler's Town pencil board here that I've been using. And I currently have, this is my old folder and kind of an old insert that I'm using that I'm trying to journal in and use up. But I am really excited to kind of have this with me as I really lean into the Traveler's Town concept with the Traveler's Notebook, is this one will be the one to accompany me wherever we go. It fits so perfectly in the bag that I've been carrying everywhere, which is the Uniqlo Crescent bag. And of course, because it is such a small and portable size, it can really fit into any of the bags that I have. And I just love this idea of this being a little companion that I can take with me everywhere, to whatever local cafe that we go to, or if we take a little train trip somewhere, that this can be my companion. And I'm just so happy to be coming back to the passport size in 2024. I hope that this has given a glimpse of my Techo Kaigi as I've been putting together my 2024 planner and journal lineup, thinking about the things that have really worked for me this year in 2023, which include the A6 size, the passport size, and the Traveler's Notebook and the Weeks sizes as well. And reflecting on just what I learned from using all of these particular sizes and the specific notebooks and journals that were particularly effective for me and successful in terms of inspiring me and motivating me on a day-to-day basis to continue to find joy in planning and writing and journaling and creativity. This is what has led me to decide on these for my 2024 lineup. I'll be doing, hopefully, a much more detailed setup video of some of these in the new year, but I at least wanted to share this with you as we come to the end of 2023 and approach 2024. Thank you all so much once again for being so wonderfully supportive, and thank you for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this and are enjoying the other videos as well. Have a peaceful and restful end of the year, and I am looking forward to being in touch with you all in the next year. Happy 2024, everyone. Bye.